on InRadio, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm James Cridland, the radio futurologist. This week, saying thank you. Sit in front of Twitter and watch Tony Blackburn's account on a Saturday morning, and you'll see something a little unusual. Tony Blackburn is probably the most well-known radio presenter in the UK. On air since 1964, he joined the BBC 50 years ago. He was the first radio presenter on the top 40 station BBC Radio 1 and has been part of the UK radio scene ever since on both BBC and commercial radio. With a long career and at the age of 74, you'd expect him to be taking it easy these days, but he's clearly having none of it. You can hear him on a local Kent commercial radio station, as well as 2 local BBC radio stations and the national BBC Radio 2, Europe's most listened to radio station, where he presents a weekly show, Sounds of the 60s. So, back to his Twitter account. Well, it's a mix of self-promotion. His plugs for his show on KMFM obligingly contain a sponsor credit for P&O Ferries, and poor jokes. A truck full of tortoises crashed into a truck full of terrapins. I thought, that's a turtle disaster. I have to say that this column is translated into German, and it's at times like these that I feel sorry for my translator. However, his Twitter account is slightly different on Saturday morning. That's the time of his Sounds of the 60s show, which, in spite of starting at 6 a.m, he insists on doing live. And every week after his show, he thanks his listeners, one by one, on Twitter. Very kind of you, Tanya. Thanks, he responds to one tweet. I hope you're having a great time, he says to a man called Gary, who tweeted that he was listening while backpacking around Romania. Glad you enjoyed it, he writes to Alan, who tweeted that he'd caught the entire programme. He doesn't need to thank his listeners, but when you follow his Twitter account, as 80,000 people do, you get the feeling of a polite man rather than, as many can appear, a star who's too important to talk to the likes of you. And incidentally, when you meet Tony Blackburn, as I've done, he's just as friendly. Now, we probably all have good examples of somebody who've bothered to say thank you. Consultant and technologist Fred Jacobs recently shared another example, AccuRadio's John Geron, who made it a policy to always respond to everyone. And I'm reminded of a radio station in Edmonton, 102.3 Now Radio, which had a rule for all on-air talent that they must personally respond to every single Facebook message, tweet or SMS message while they were on the air. Can't have done them too badly. They rose very quickly to be number 1 rated. So, while I'd probably not recommend his appalling taste of bad puns, there's plenty to learn from Tony Blackburn. If somebody takes the time to contact you, you're never too big to thank them back. Music is from Ignite Jingles, and you can get my weekly newsletter at james.crid.land and daily podcast news at podnews.net. And until next time, thank you and keep listening.